How y'all doing?
Hey, y'all.
Right here. She is all about that and being
We're
sung.
back.
I know we missed y'all last week.
Last week we apologize. We
Stepped
apologize.
away.
We had one of our elders call us and get on us about that.
Ooh,
So we are back.
we are. We're
We're
doing
back.
what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes, we needed that accountability.
That's what it's all about.
What it's about.
Keeping everybody on point.
We have to say thank you and make
Yes,
sure that
indeed.
we're on point.
It was, getting together with some friends, and we failed to announce to everybody that we would be away.
Yeah.
Therefore, anytime we are away, we will make an announcement.
Yeah.
This time this is about our 13th episode, so we do have some previous episodes that we will let you guys, for your viewing pleasures, anytime you want to, go and check them out.
Yeah.
The tea, tonight we're going to be talking about on the tea, as far as the Black community is concerned, we're going to be speaking about the Black man.
And so we have Angie Stone with the song Brother.
Yes. She goes hard.
Because you are important.
Very important.
In the Black community. Without you, there is no community.
So important.
Yes.
It's like we help our young men stand strong, erect, and be held accountable. So we're going to get into this session. It's going to be fun. It's going to be live. And as I always like to say, as always, welcome to the tea. I'm your man. Not yet. We cutting that boy stuff out. I'm your man, Chauncey Anderson, and of course, this is
Aka Anderson, your co-host. His co-host, so actually.
Awesome. Okay, we're gonna keep this pure, family rated.
Oh my God!
Ain't gonna do no Homer Simpson. Anyway, it is. There's so much that's going on in this early 2019 as it pertains to just our community alone. It seems like we have a lot of things going on in the political arena.
Yes.
Things that are happening in the businesses, men and women that are doing big things. We also have, just from the standpoint of, I would say, like young men that are stepping up in the areas as far as fatherhood. And taking care of their business and their responsibilities. I always like to go straight to a source that I find really relevant as far as getting statistics and getting a lot of percentages of who's doing what as far as in the Black community. And like we said tonight, on the tea, the Black community, we're going to be talking about the Black man. So first and foremost, of course, these statistics started back in 2013. It's only 2019, 6-year difference. But as far as population here in the United States of America, there are approximately, they say, 21.5 million Black men in the United States. That's approximately 48% of the Black population in the United States of America. Black women make up 52%. So we almost even along the lines as it pertains to where we are at and what we are doing.
So now we need to find out where these 48% men are, because women feel like they're absent.
Go ahead, share.
They're absent from the story. So we need to find out where are these 48% men, because we feel like it's a lower number than that.
It's a lower number, and statistically speaking, when you look at where we are as Black men, this is the ages of this statistic that was taken is between 16 to 64.
Okay.
Now, we got a lot of brothers that may have been incarcerated.
Okay.
May have gotten out and become ex-offenders.
Okay.
And repeat offenders, and they're back in the system in and of itself. From that standpoint, then you have those men and women. I mean, you got teenage boys that really haven't, back in the day, they were considered men and they set off and they did their things.
And they went forth and started families and got jobs. Right. And yes.
But a lot of our youth today are not really ready to make that type of move.
Right.
It's so much that's going on. We need to simply kind of like pull back, because everything that we've come through from the standpoint of both slavery and certain conditions,
Yes.
you're not out there alone. You still have the ability to be in your parents' home, whether it's a single parent, dual parent, mama and daddy in the household. It's just, where are you taking your responsibility to,
right,
as it relates to that. So I think Maya and I, we had a conversation this past weekend as it pertains to that. And I speak from my heart, and being a Black man, as I told her, there were things that I had to do, especially when I became a father, and raising children and things like that. I literally felt like I had to find who I was.
Right.
The identity became really, really big as far as I was concerned. And it took me seeking that out. My daughter was born. I had, from a previous marriage, I had another child on the way, and I was going through it. And that was my late 20s, early 30s. And I knew that responsibility, because I remembered as a child, as a Black, young Black child, a man, a boy, I was like, I didn't have that. There were always women in the household. There was never a man in the household. And I'm talking about my mother, single mom with 4 children, with 4 different fathers. And it was, it was kind of shaky. And I often wondered who my father was. I knew my father's sisters, my aunts, and where he lived in Chicago. But I never had that relationship. There was never someone that told me how to do certain things as a young boy. Talking to my brother, he's like, we were, growing up together, never knew how to tie a tie. Just those little small things.
Small things we take for granted and don't think about, especially single moms raising boys. You don't think about just the small things that they need to know. And then all of the things you can't teach. And I don't care how strong, I was a single mom and stuff, but still there's things that you just can't teach. And there's things that you don't know how young men feel, young boys feel growing up, and they're never going to express that.
Or the different things that we go through. I mean, when we were growing up, we went to church today, and it was funny because the pastor, that was one of the things that he spoke about, is where are the fathers, the Black fathers. And one of the things that he talked about was his children. And now I remember as being like 10 or 12 years old, selling newspapers on the corner, being a shoe shine boy when I was 12. You really don't see too many young Black men in our communities nowadays at that age being asked to shine shoes, do different things.
Right.
I mean, some may have a hustle, but most of the times the parents are able to provide, something from an economical standpoint,
monetary value,
give them something, whether they clean their rooms or different things like that. But for us, we got jobs. I mean, shining shoes was really big back in St. Louis, Missouri, and it helped us out immensely, paying for school clothes, books, whatever it is that we needed. Whereas that isn't so much. Even our children, when they were growing up, I remember being able to provide for my son, especially when he was a senior in high school, telling him focus on school wasn't necessary for him to try to, have a summer youth job or anything like that. Those things that we had to do when we were growing up, it makes it really interesting as you watch it. There are a lot of different parallels in the Black community compared to other communities. One of the big things as far as Black men in the Black community is when it comes to education. Again, this 2013, as far as attainment, they say about 48% of Black men and that are 25 and older attend college.
Mm.
I mean, that used to be like a staple.
Yeah, that was like almost a must. Like that's what you were looking forward to.
That you did,
or
you
or going towards. Yeah,
went forward and doing.
But
I don't know where the break off came.
Yeah, especially with education, because that's one platform that I feel like if Black women were able to do it in their circumstances, Black men were, because you still have the same avenues of getting to college, whether you had money or not, because you have the student loan system or whatever. So I don't know what happened that just wasn't sought after as highly as Black women seek after the education system. What was going on there?
Well, that was the paradigm. I think a lot along those lines, and like I say again, the studies are there to be able to show. I think Maya had said earlier, where we didn't have a lot of the YouTube, Facebook, these different social medias,
the platforms,
that helped us to be able to attain this knowledge that we research for, the internet, things like that. How was that information shared, passed on, gotten to? Was it by word of mouth? What did our ancestors do? You know, after slavery, you know,
we're talking about your grandma, your great grandma, your great great grandma, that kind of stuff.
We not, I mean, shy of just 50 years. Just want to make
sure, so 50 years is just So
just really around.
We want to make sure you understand the time.
How was it that message got out that helped us? I mean, our grandparents, our moms, our grandparents, great grandparents, be able to get that education that they had received,
if they received
it, but to the extent that they took advantage to the degree that, you know, the Black men were educated. I mean, whether it was by way of hustling
or military,
right? I mean, programs
that were out,
the Tuskegee Institute, you know,
that's
by
true.
Booker T. Washington, that type of stuff was made available. And a lot of things, I think I heard Dr. Umar Johnson, he was saying just we listened to something the other day. He said back during that time before the 70s had hit, most trades or really like technical schools, they were taught in high school.
They were built into the high school.
In the high school, you were learning about plumbing, you were learning about construction.
And I think that's
all
why
those different programs.
A lot of the charter schools get attacked today, because the school I went to, you learned a trade. You got to pick a trade. So when you left high school, you had a trade. And I know in Philadelphia, they have high schools that they'll have a high school, but it's also a business school. So if you want to learn business, you go to high school, but it focuses on business, and you have to dress a certain way to come to school because it's all focused on business. Then you have a high school with arts if you want to go art. So in some places, some states, they have a few schools like that, but mostly charter schools were started out like that to build in technical and high school. And I think that was one of the major fights, because, you know, if you start teaching kids a skill in school, guess what? Colleges start losing money, because they don't necessarily need to go to you. They can go right out, get a job, and start you know, moving their life forward.
Our generation is concerned, we were the last generation, being Generation X, that they said your high school diploma could move you into areas of great opportunity. You worked at some of the factories, whether it's auto, whether it's steel, being able to go into the military, that taught you a trade. What was some of the Peace Corps? AmeriCorps,
all of these programs that still exist today
out there, were readily available. But also, it got to a point, I think Dr. Umar was saying, there was this epidemic that happened in the 70s where those programs stopped being made available in the schools. I mean, basic financing and understanding budgets how to, you know,
life
run
skills.
A household. I mean, that's first and foremost. And if you didn't have that any longer, let alone learning plumbing or construction or carpentry or different things like that. Next thing you know, you're trying to figure out what it is that you're going to be doing. And this is where he said they substituted that with you going to college, getting a college degree.
Have money.
And as he said, he's a psychologist, and he's like, what is in the Black community? How many people need a Black psychologist?
Yeah.
How many of us are going to a psychologist of
any
type?
sort? Yeah.
We're
just slowly breaking to feel okay about even talking about it, let alone going to one.
Where so you're going to be doing something.
Exactly, because you were always taught you keep your business in the house.
Oh yeah.
You don't go spread it out, and you have a trauma, you better learn how to deal with it internally, or pray to God and hope it gets dealt with,
get fixed. And that what Maya said, that's what ended up happening. And the labor force, again, from the age of 16 to 64, compared to other cultures or communities, we are like at 67%. Now, it's a breakdown between white collar jobs, blue collar jobs, or having your own business. But the bottom line of it is, where we, on average, we were earning in 2013 approximately $37,000 annually. Most of the other communities are making far more significantly. I mean, it's just
a huge gap.
It's almost like it's sad,
yeah,
because we got away from those things that were important, meaning education, meaning having a father in the community that or in the household that spoke of the importance of education, of life into a young man. Education being one, but just life in general. Sometimes it's to assure that young man, as he is walking out that door every day, being strong, being confident, understanding that your name, say Anderson is my last name, that Anderson name, when you go off into that school, hold strong. You're not going to make that name be something that everybody is ashamed of.
Right. And I know you ladies are thinking, well, I can tell my son to be strong and be confident when he walks out the door, but he doesn't know what that looks like in a man's
perspective.
So he can see you be strong and you have your strength and your courage and your bravery, but it does not reflect the same way as if he was to see what a man looks like to be strong and brave.
Because we always knew that the mother is in the household. That mom was there doing, miraculous things. Literally bow down to you guys, because you could take anything and you can make it into something that's
that Black girl magic. We're going to make it work. Right.
So if we could see that from the Black woman's perspective, imagine if we had seen it from the Black father's perspective.
Right.
So much seems like it weighed on his shoulders from so many different dynamics, whether he couldn't be in a household back in the 70s in order for you to receive the government assistance,
and he couldn't get a job.
The jobs weren't there. I remember my aunt, my father's sister, 2018, just last year, I remember she sent me a video, and I still have that video today. It's called The Corner. It's in Chicago, Illinois. And it was about what had happened to the Black men in that community. Not being able to find a job. Education is like, to go to school was like not even existent.
Yeah.
You didn't do that. So they called it The Corner. And these men, these young men, probably 16 to 20, hung out on the street corner every day, ended up having rival gangs and different things like that. And all their thing is literally from what I seen it was to wake up the next day. Being able to wake up the next day was
it.
What their life was all about.
Can you imagine that?
But they didn't have something that gave them, as Maya just said, hope for that future. So I can imagine in 1967, my dad came down to visit one of his sisters who lived next door to my grandmother. And I remember how that story was told. He saw my mother on the back porch of my grandmother's home, and basically they had a relationship. Now, from that point on, my dad went back to Chicago, a truck driver, and I was conceived. And from that going forward, being born May 8th, 1967, saw my dad one time at 12 years of age. Only reason why I saw my dad at 12 is my mom went to a cool jazz festival in Chicago, Illinois. It is no, but I mean, like I say again, from my perspective, laying down, looking in newspapers and seeing certain things, something triggered in my mind to say, you know what? When I got old, I love my dad. I honor him. I honor my mom. But when I became an adult, and if I had children, I was not going to be a statistic. I was not going to be an absentee father. So certain things could be said of me that I heard said of my father or the fathers of my brother and sisters in the household.
And then you don't even know if it's true or not. You just but you have no way to.
But I can quite
correct that or not.
Boy, I can honestly tell you, sometimes, though I didn't remain married to my children's mothers, the stories that I was not doing I'm glad I kept the stacks of child support payments or different things I had to do, because stories of what they gonna be, truthful or not, they can be very hurtful. They not to the person that they're saying it about,
right? But to the children,
it's the
and that's what we must understand as adults and parents.
Truly.
That it is about your kids. Once you have those kids, it's about protecting them and giving them truth. Because the fact is, they are going to grow up, and if that other parent is still alive, they're going to go find out.
Oh yeah.
Is this what you said it was? Did he really just walk away, or did you push him away? Or did you hold him hostage?
Right. That's what we were talking about this weekend, because it was the question is, I think Maya was asking me about what did I go back?
Yeah, because as a woman, I didn't understand. What did you need to go back in the past to get to show you who to be now? Right. So it was very confusing to me, because I didn't understand. Like I just see a man,
right? And that's
so where that come from.
It's almost like going back and trying to find something in hopes of finding something that actually wasn't there. That showed me as a man I needed that history. So I got the opportunity of going to a family reunion, but it blessed me because it was in Chicago. That was the blessing. So I got to see both families, the Anderson side of the family, as well as the Allen side of the family. I got to see my sister she's an adult by the time I see her. Was born of another woman by my dad. I had known that there was other siblings and things like that, but got to see my Aunt Cornelius and all of her siblings, and she has all of the pictures of my dad, my Uncle James, my Aunt Katie.
It's like a lost treasure.
That was just that side of the family. And then to see the rich history of the Anderson side of the family, but actually it was by way of the Wagner family. I actually just found the pictorial, and what was fabulous about that, haven't seen both of those. My son currently, our son, I should say, who's 24 years of age, just recently started asking me about our family history. And I was able to walk right out to the garage, find the pictorial in the box, pull it out and say, this is what I got to get to my son. And it starts from 1856. And I think our pictures, which our generation was the last one, me, my brother, and my two sisters, but it's so much more, so much more. If you just really want that, I think I told Maya when I had to be about 8 or 10, when I saw my great uncle in 1958, he worked with President Truman in helping with the integration of African Americans getting an education in the military.
In the military, yeah.
In the military. So imagine if in 1958, I'm not even born yet.
Right.
But then that is being taught to me when I am born. That's an eye-opener. The significance.
Yeah, it's like,
how
wow.
important that is.
Yeah.
But I see this when I'm like 30. I saw him when I was 10. I chose to go in the military because I saw him in uniform.
Wow.
But then I didn't know he did all that he did. Fighting on the same card as Archie Moore, some of Joe Louis, he was a boxer. Some of the great things, that we oftentimes, when you look in his, it's important that a black young man, a child, boy, boy is just boy, there's nothing negative about it.
Right.
Receives because I was saying to Maya, by the time that child hits 4 years of age, he is really not really allowed to go into mom's room anymore, because as he's starting to develop, 70-80% of his IQ, his mom no longer wants to see, for him to see her naked.
Right.
There's
those boundaries
start setting.
Yeah.
Whereas I remember my son was Justice was like 14 years of age. And I remember Justice having to take a shower, because Justice, we young black men, God is my witness. That testosterone started oozing up out of us, and we started smelling like something awful. And if you don't take care of personal hygiene, it's not a good look.
Yeah.
Literally. I mean, boy, getting that shower. I mean, and like literally saying from head to toe, you got to scrub it down.
Right.
It's so, I
know it seems so simple, like you should know it, but if you don't teach a child how to do that, they just don't come out the womb knowing how to clean themselves. So someone has to be there to show them there is a process to taking a shower and a bath.
And all that being said is that for a young man, if he sees a man, he's not afraid. But for a woman, he's like, he probably, certain things just don't click in our head. So like I told Maya, first time I learned how to shave, I read it from a GQ magazine while I'm sitting in Germany. How do black men supposed to shave? Most brothers was like, I'm gonna give me a shaving profile because I got. And when I would try to show them, they was like, man, that got them out of certain things. they was playing a game. But it's weird that the most basic things for us black men growing up in our community that we're not taught, in the Jewish community, they're taught with seriousness.
Right.
When they
their manhood is serious.
Oh yeah, it ain't
manhood
no joke.
is serious.
If you can read the Torah and know it inside and out, so you can. I say they do it by way of memory and knowing how to do it, but they get paid.
Yes.
When you in a white community and you do certain things along those lines, you handling your business. We need to get back to teaching young black men the things that we're supposed to do. Real quick, relationships. 86% of all black men end up getting married to a black woman. And they do also say that about 51% of black men just choose never to marry.
Isn't that's amazing? 51%.
51%
never
marry, because that whole thing about relationship, it's never taught the value of it.
Well, they've never seen it. They don't know the value of it. They don't know what it looks like. And that's on both sides, actually. That's men and women.
It does.
And that's one of the biggest problems. We need to definitely communicate better on that.
Correct, because when you come together, you grow. Anthony Browder, he was speaking about where it's one, then it's two, you come together, the child being born three. It's just dynamic.
It's a dynamic
growth.
Yes. So we have to see it in different eyes.
We do.
Not in the eyes that it has been presented to us for so many years and generations back, but it's time to unlock and really look at you as an individual and going back and looking at how your family. And if you got to go back and ask those questions. And for those who have the answer, because I know people who have gone back, ask the questions, and for some reason, those elders will not give you any information. And I think that is so sad. And it is. That's what I was going to say next. It's a travesty that you would not share important information to that child about their family.
Yes,
that just separates them even more from the culture and the traditions
and for
that have
them to
been
try
stated
to move
forward.
forward.
It keeps them
It does.
stuck. They need to know whatever they ask you, give it. We're all grown. What they gonna do? Give you a spanking for the stuff you
That's
did?
it. You know,
I mean, they can't do anything but take that information, maybe ask you some more questions, but it will help you get those things out of your soul too, from keeping them so secret and locked up.
And you build and you grow.
Yes. And you didn't know any better. You know better now. You just
like
keep moving forward.
It's all about, like, that's what the kids could it was created for.
Right.
The bottom line, after it's all said and done, not knowing what the next show is, but it's all about honor,
love and respect. And until we can do that, there is no unity.
My family, I must say, we could, again, with this, we could go on and on and on. And the interaction that I wish that could be had on this, because I know a lot of us do. We about to flip from YouTube over to Facebook.
Yes, because we got our audience waiting. But we want to thank all those that do watch us. Yes, we thank you all for Sister Greer, you know, Dad. Yes, Brother Greer, and all those at Deliverance. We heard some people check it out. So we want to thank you too.
From the bottom of my heart.
Yes. And hopefully we'll see some of you on. We're always here at 4:30. 4:30 to 5. All right. Peace, y'all.
She got it going on. I just follow her lead.